What is up, everyone? This is Sara G, and it is GenZ-Gab. Let's get into it. So, here's the thing. I make a lot of jokes about just my family here and there, all that kind of stuff. But the whole insanity line that comes along with some of just being from a big Irish American family is that you find articles of people that maybe you're even related to or remotely connected to, and just where your brain goes, yeah, nothing about this surprises me. So I'm just talking like a something upon reflection is I feel like probably a little mentally unstable to a lot of society, but I can look at an article about someone trying to, I don't know, catch a flight and steal then a car and try to farm with it by using a hoe. Yeah, lots of things. But then it's like suddenly my life makes sense. I've had to overcome so much stuff with that bloodline. And to make matters even more hilarious, is it that it reminds me of what Primo would do, like a character would do. Like it reminds me, and I sent it actually to the character who plays Rolly, but it reminds me of something that Rolly would do on Primo, like where he would get, yeah, there's just a lot of things. And I know that people are going to say, aren't you going to get in trouble? Aren't you going to ruin like a picture perfect moment? Not really, because the point is that we're all just talking about how we all have families that are big, overbearing, whatever, and that's part of life. But at least you can show how far you came. So, yeah. Uh, Aside from that, I finished watching Ted Lasso. And am I very sad? Yes. Is my attention span not really there for, the 60-minute, 75-minute episodes? 1,000%. Would you watch a Roy or a Beard spinoff? Yes. So, yeah, I adore that show. That is one of my happy shows. Aside from, I don't know why House has become one of my happy shows too. And Primo is still my favorite right now that I could make so many clips off of. And again, as we're still going on, people are going to be like, why is she mentioning the WGA strike yet again, or the SEG? Because you know what? We need to share support, and they keep going. They keep moving forward. They keep doing the good stuff. And you know what? The problem is that if you don't keep showing support, then they're going to run out of steam. So even if you're still showing support but being silent, maybe encourage them a little bit, because it's getting hot, as you can see. Like right now it's like 95 and humid and no, gross. Yeah. Why am I doing that noise anyway? But it's so, yeah, hot, humid, you name it. So not what you want. And I just got trippy on my words. And yes, I had a word, a salad, earlier. Honestly, I got a hate comment, which people can say hate comments are amazing because it shows that you've made it. No, 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 no. Not in my case. In my case, I don't get any kind comments. I get only hate. And I get it. I get it. When they ask me who I'm talking to the world. You know what vloggers do, right? Or podcasters do? We kind of just talk to ourselves if it's a single podcast. So yeah, when you're in a single podcast, yeah, you kind of run out of things to talk about, but you also don't want to talk too long, and you got to mix it up and keep it interesting, which is why I'm here to talk about one thing, and maybe a few more things. Obviously, as a lot of people know, I am gonna probably take a break after next week's episode. Why? Because I'm feeling a lot of burnout, and I've talked about it a lot, and I just don't feel like the momentum's there anymore. I know I'm competing with thousands, millions of other podcasts, and I don't have the collateral to really, bump it up or pay for a lot of things to do this every week anymore. It's also just like frustrating when you pour your heart and soul in, and like I said, have just hate comments come through. Nobody rates your podcast, and nobody really leaves any sort of comment except for occasionally on a short. And it just, you envision something, and I shouldn't say this podcast is a failure, but it just didn't grow as much as I had hoped. And that's fine, that's life, I get it, but just that the fact that I do this weekend and week out, and it's just not, going in the, and I just want to be candid about this for anyone who starts this again, because I know I talk a lot and keep repeating it, but it's true. It's just a lot of work, especially if you're not someone who has a big following, big amounts of money to pour in, etc. It's just, yeah, it takes a while. And just because you're not top charting doesn't mean that you don't have value, but it's just very hard to keep going. And I personally would have liked to have gotten more guests together. So I need a little time away. I feel very burnt out. I'm sick of the toxicity. Kind of same with TikTok. I know I keep saying that I'm going to take a break from TikTok, but I can't because I'm afraid of losing X, Y, and Z. But it's true. I should really take a break from it. I was following someone who I really appreciate, Lily Meikle. She's on TikTok. She shares a lot about her mixed identity and Native American, just how we support blah blah blah. I know I said blah blah blah. Why would I say that? But you know, my ADHD kind of gets me like overstating some stuff. So, but she's a good person to follow if you want more information on how to support Native American causes, education, all that fun stuff. But she took a break for a little while from TikTok, and she didn't think people like would notice too much. And again, like of course I noticed whatever. I'm on my journey of trying to find out my native ancestors. Again, I get leads from Ancestry, etc., but there's not a lot that doesn't come to you for free because everything is forced out in money mode because that's how you survive in this life. So, but I guess my point was that she took a break for her mental health and it was a lot better. And personally, I've just had so much bad insomnia lately. I've done the brown noise. I've done a lot of other supplements. I've done all this kind of stuff. My thyroid's being messed up again, too. This hot weather is not feeling very good on my joints. Yes, I'm an old lady, basically. So, yeah, and I get it. It's just one of those, it's like a little bit, I guess, like parenting, where they would say it's a thankless job. But that's kind of where like small businesses and small podcasting, it's just very hard to want to feel like you keep going. Like I am someone who fights and fights to get through, but you know what? The average podcast, like I've talked about in the past, is 174 days, okay? I've made it a year and a half, and look, I don't know if people are going to notice me missing. I'd hope, but you gotta be honest here. There's so much going on in the world. And unless you have thousands or millions of followers, you're not really going to get paid attention to much. And lately, my ADHD, I think I've been getting a little more impulsive with some responses lately because I've been getting into comment fights, keyboard wars, as you will. And you know what? I know I'm not being too sensitive. Like, people are being really rude to me, and maybe I am, like, just a little more burnt out and got a shorter fuse lately. But, you know, just a lot of things are going on right now with social media that are making me not so feel great about, like, TikTok. TikTok is getting messed up. They will keep racist people on, but when somebody has something that actually matters, like, I don't know, advocating for and educating on disabilities, etc., rare diseases, you know, that don't show actual children very often, but go ahead, block them, and like resources that parents can have a community and network with, yeah, but you'll keep the family vlogger, etc. on. So it's just a lot. And I think just because the Flash seems to always win, or it feels like that will always win, it's just that it gets overwhelming. And in order for me to also do other jobs that I'm going to, you know, pursue between acting and voiceover plus, you know, just freelance work, it gets to be a lot. And yeah, and then I'm gonna just talk about, because I had this interesting conversation with my mom recently about how, you know, how am I gauging to these target audiences, whatever. And the problem is I try to target to 18 to 30-year-olds, but the problem is that in another way, family, friends, whatever, try to support you that are way older because they're like your parents' friends. And that's where I don't want to sound ungrateful, but the problem is that I didn't ever ask them to do this. Like, they go on and start listening and support, but the problem is that when I see that my demographic is, you know, getting up with the 50 and 70-year-olds, that's not what I'm aiming for. And plus, they're appalled by half the shit I say. So why don't you do me the favor of, if you really want to support me, don't listen to this. You don't have to listen to this just because someone told you to. You don't have to listen to this just because my parents say that I have one. It's, a lot of stopping my people-pleasing skills where people would be like, when were you ever a people pleaser? I get so much anxiety a lot of the times if I'm going to say the wrong or right stuff. And then it's funny, again, being an adult living at home where the contradictory never stops of, no, you need to do this, no, you need to do that, no, I never said that, it depends on the time or the moment. Like, living at home stresses me out. I think a lot of people who have been here since the beginning know that, and it's just like, even when here's the thing, I don't have a lot of friends. We've all established that, whatever, and that's life. Sometimes, whether you're neurodivergent or just get them moves or whatever, or just, now in your 20s, because there's separate pieces. Like, yeah, there's people now in your 20s that, don't do things with their friends. And then there's the people who just peaked in high school who still hang out with their same friends that they've always hung out with, which I guess is great and all fun. But it just makes me start to wonder about a lot more things of, like, how weird I feel usually running into people. Like, I ran into some people recently, and it was great to see all that. And they're actually the type of people I wouldn't mind running into. But when I explained to my parents, like, hey, this is why I don't like to run into people, is because I don't like to explain what I'm doing in life because I'm not doing much, okay? And yeah, it's great when people can be positive or put a positive spin like, oh, yeah, at least you're saving money, X, Y, Z, but it's also just not that fun when you're thinking through other pieces of just feeling like the leash is still on you when you were, a little kid. On a separate note, I do want to preface this episode, I will be trying my Spanish skills out again. Why? Because here's the thing. I've gotten a few voiceover auditions recently, and my Spanish is very good, and I was actually I need to email back that voice coach that I was planning to work with, but I've realized that I'm probably not sounding the most comfortable behind a mic when I'm doing my Spanish. And it's probably because I haven't really practiced it a lot. So I just wanted to say that I probably will at least try for the last 5 minutes, 5 minutes of this podcast to at least speak a little bit to see how long I can go, because I want to just see how much that can work. And I know I could even edit it out and just see how I sound, but I do just want to, in case anybody's curious, like, if I actually can do Spanish voiceover, yes, I can. I just have been a little rusty lately. And yes, I am fluent. It's just that it sometimes takes a while to, turn on and off and on and off. And I listen to a bunch of stuff dubbed in Spanish, like I've heard a bunch of people talk about. So it's just one of those, keeping it fresh. And I know people are going to say that's weird. And didn't you bash whatever podcast that did it? No, did not bash it for doing that. Actually, it was a cool part. I bashed that I never get a response. But I understand that not everyone has time to react to everything. But I will talk about the Zoe 102 while we're on that, because that has been a very interesting moment for me. How I will not watch that. I refuse to watch that. Not just because of the things that, well, kind of because of the things that come out, but it's just like, at this point, it's more about what was happening with Britney, and then more of what was happening on, to Alexis Nichols, which she did not deserve any of that. But it's just one of those, like, there's multiple layers, like, and a lot of people even are saying, we don't need a reboot. We don't need a movie, okay? And that's true. And just my whole feelings about Jamie Lynn, just no, not that it. And then Amanda Bynes, poor girl, was going through it all again. And it's just one of those where people are being so, like, where are her parents? Again, she's 37, guys. 37. Not a lot you can do, even if you have guardianship, etc. It's just very hard to say. And people like TMZ just being nasty, taking pictures here and there. And, that's what TMZ is known for. I get it. But it's just like, some of these things, mental illness is real. Mental illness is help. And, again, I follow Dr. Courtney Tracy, and again, I love her philosophy so much. But this week she wrote dyslexia, depression, and summertime sadness. And I just was like, I think about that would be my memoir. That would be my memoir title. And I just can't get over how funny and self-deprecating that I am. But you know what? It's all great, because if you can't laugh about it sometimes, then what are we even doing? But what I'm trying to say, the whole thing with Amanda Bynes is that she needs to be, well, not needs to be, but it just needs to be understood more that this is more about an illness kind of thing than just her going crazy, quote unquote, or her having an addiction. But even then, that's always like the mental health level aspect that we don't really pay attention to. And again, it's become so normalized, like grooming, etc. And I know people are gonna say, "You jump from one to the next." Well, hey, gotta keep up. This show is only 20 to 40 minutes usually, because it's just me talking. And yeah, for people saying, "Who are you talking to?" Like I said earlier, I'm talking to people who are in my age group to maybe if 5 years older and 5 years younger, I don't know, 18 to 30. I've constantly said, again, people who are in this awkward stage, especially after COVID, who really don't know what they're doing, who are figuring it out. I mean, it can be at any age, but seriously. And this has been kind of therapeutic for me, even if it just seems like, oh, a girl in a room just talking to herself. Okay, cool. Where was though everyone else at different moments? Have we all had not quarter life crisis as the joke, or have we not all had moments where we're questioning our self-worth in this world even before social media? Yeah, so just kind of move on. But yeah, I just want people, it's not even like the leave Britney alone kind of moment. It's just really thinking about how, yeah, we don't really need to laugh at celebs anymore quite like that to really realize the focus and the impact the mental health has. And again, as a lot of people know, I'm very big on that, and maybe it's to a fault or whatever, how I feel things, but it's just not cool. And again, it goes to show how far I've even come when I used to think I wanted to do jobs like that. I've spoken about it in the past, and now I can't believe I've ever wanted to do that job. But then it's like, one point it was like the lifestyle of the rich and the famous, and don't even get me started on the whole Travis Barker Kourtney Kardashian thing, because we all know that she's pregnant. Congratulations. We all know that there's something big there. But just like how much of a question mark all of that stuff is. Like, one minute Court's like, I don't want you exposing your kids, Kim. But on the other hand, Alabama, which I know is her stepdaughter, and I know I shouldn't really be talking too much, but it's like, girl goes from looking 17 to 31, and her parents don't really care. And yes, for everyone saying X, Y, and Z, wow, that's my favorite quote lately to say, right? But there's still a difference between, me being actually in my 20s and these people acting like they're in their 20s and they still make more money than me. And yeah, I've got weird, messed up hair for anyone watching the YouTube version. I get it. I look a mess some days. I got sweat on my face sometimes, and I gotta put powder on it to stop it from sweating all over the place. By the way, Makeup by Monica just got on Sephora's list of influencer whatever, and I'm so happy. Congrats to her. She has given me so many tips, and I know people are gonna say, isn't she all about brown girl friendly? Yes, but as I stated multiple times, as a white girl with the neutrally olivey stuff going on, I have needed her tips more than anything. And she taught me color theory with her friend Jazz. So that's all I'm going to say. Congrats. Hope everything works out more, because you really deserve it, especially because representation matters, etc. But she gives gold advice if you don't follow her yet. And yes, that is just another ADHD tangent by Sara. Or a word salad. But I think about this a lot, though, lately, with just how much I have ping pongs going from one to the next. And, it's all alright, because at the end of the day, if everything comes together and forms well, you never really know how much your impact is gonna be. And I know I just said something contradictory, but that's my life lately. I think, and I plan to edit and, you know, do everything well, and it just kind of doesn't go that way. You know, I've even looked into this, like where I was going to say there are so many snark pages and whatever, where I find myself agreeing with a lot of the statements. But what I will say is that back with like all the Kardashians and stuff, they're really the ones that exploded a lot of this stuff, because then by 2010 the YouTubers etc have been doing it. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit a little foal that I am obsessed with, slash I don't even know why I'm obsessed with him for this level, and like I know he'll go to a great home, all that, but I just love him so much that it's the point where like I don't even know why I'm crying over this little foal named Phineas, because his hair is growing out to look more like a Perry. But yeah, so if you don't follow Katie Van Sly on TikTok, and I know I probably just butchered that last name, she has 30 little adorable foals this year. But of course, for some odd reason, I am drawn to the little troublemaker, little spice of life boy named Finn. Depending on how big he gets, I probably would break his back because I'm tall, and you know, there's this apparently because she has a very larger, taller foal named Penelope who's going to get to 16 hands plus. That makes sense. And yes, there's a lot of things that go in, and I'm kind of novice, but I want more. But it's just that Finn has been making me want to get more back into some horseback riding, I guess, is more the thing, and learn more, etc., than I had learned as a child. But yes, I have never wanted a horse more than I've wanted Phineas. But I do not have the means or the time or whatever, so no. And the fact that he was bred to a champion, it or champions, it's kind of like I don't really, yeah, I would not be the best owner for him, but I love him so much. So if Katie and her family are listening to this, I just want to say I would give my life for Finn, and I do not mean that lightly. Like I really would. I just would love him so much. But again, there's a lot of things that, you know, you want in life that you don't get, and that's a lesson that you learn early on in your youth, but it becomes more prevalent in your 20s. Like again, I'm going to be 26 in November. I learn a lot of things that you don't get in life. And I'm luckily, though, a lot of the recipient of not getting what you want in life. So at least it's not like something like that I got super lucky growing up all the time getting everything I want. At least it wasn't that hard of a lesson to learn for me. But yeah, I also wanted to say there's a whole thing going on. I know that Phineas is a bay roan, like from a lot of the stuff, but the way that his face is developing, he's getting darker and darker, and I've done like more research to prove how he could wind up being a blue roan, but I think that they just confirmed he's still a bay. But the more that I learn about horses, and before anyone goes, she's a horse girl now, no. I am second generation off the farm. So I get to cut, like, I get some slack cut. You know why? Because I'm second generation off the farm. It is still in my blood that I like some of this farmy country stuff, okay? Like, both my grandparents were raised on a farm. Some of them were born in a farm. Like, it's in my blood. Like I said, it is. My grandpa was an Iowa farmer kid. My grandma was a Minnesota farmer kid. Like, I can't escape sometimes my brain and my genetics going off on, like, when I see a horse, when I see an animal, when I see a dog, like, some of it I can't help. So yeah. And yes, I know for people gonna be like, well, what ride do you ride? Did you ride? I rode a lot as a kid. Now it was mostly trail rides, but I rode a lot as a kid. I learned a lot of basic stuff. And I just am so glad I found Katie's account, not only for being able to be mesmerized by baby Finn, but just learn more than what I probably knew it for a while. But yes, I do Western style, and I kind of miss it sometimes. So, if anything, that just reignites kind of a passion that I had a while back, and that maybe someday I'll do well enough where I can buy one or, rent, board. I don't know exactly the best way to put the terminology without it sounding horrible. But I will say that, if I'm ever on set and they ask me if I like to horseback ride or if I can horseback ride, yes, I can. That's on my special skills, and I do not lie about my special skills. And if you want to know more information on what to put with special skills, etc., I definitely follow Sam Sleeget's. Like I said, Audition Pro LA. This is not me, like, plugging her in or Jeremy Gordon. This is just me thinking through, like, that's how my brain goes right now with ADHD. But I did kind of think about this though as well, like just with a lot of things that are going on aside from, me complaining about typical stuff like what's going on in the actor world, what's going on here, is there, everywhere. My problem lately that I've been like in content block as well, even though I still do the reaction series, it's just like I am completely burnt out and I don't know my next move. So it's just kind of funny. But as I do these reactions to older shows, videos, and just because summer is around the corner slash is starting, I start to think a little more about the whole body dysmorphia stuff, how you're feeling, and how your language is going to be during this year and this summer. Also, I've been noticing some own hypocritical moments that I've had to unpack myself from the dietitians that I really adore, that I still do adore, but it's been really weighing heavily on my mind lately when I see them, they're making their food, they're doing some things here and there, and they're like, also though, going to talk about what health benefits some of these things have, and one of my favorite dietitians used it has no refined sugar and buzzwords, and it just really gave me a bad feeling. For all I know, it was just almost like I can't do this. I can't deal with this, and I should be able to, but it's like just one of those, like, the anti-diet dietitians I'm really a big fan of. Intuitive eating, to an extent, a lot of their viewpoints. But when you say stuff like that, that confuses me because you're also ripping on the people that are doing like cleanses, etc. And I'm not saying that I'm like completely canceling you. No, that's not what I'm doing. This is just me genuinely asking, how can you go from this? And maybe it's not black and white or as like cut and dry as it meant, but it really bothered me because some of these people go out from calling out people like, I'm trying to think of her name and I can't. But the point is that they, go from calling out celebrities with their Rebel Wilson with her 600-calorie diet, which she does not need, and all that stuff was just so messed up. The article made me want to barf. And, I'm not actually having the best, like, body image moment right now. I don't want to get into it, but there's just a lot of things that are kind of weighing heavy on my mind right now between that and then summer heat. Like I said, with my Hashimoto, etc. It's, I can't control a lot of things, but we gotta have a better attitude around weight, which I know what people have been saying that for years, but I just even hear the comments, how even like guys sometimes talk, even within my own family, and I'm not trying to bash anyone. It's just, I get so frustrated unpacking a lot of this stuff and realizing this is why I got problems, some intergenerational trauma. And, people are always wondering why I'm kind of angry it feels to live here at home. It's because sometimes, like, and I know nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to say everything 100% accurate all the time. I get that. I feel that. But it's just really, truly disheartening how much, like, everyone tries to give out advice and you just want to explode. And you want to believe ones that, are saying they're against anti-diet, but then they still go around and have some orthorexic-like moments. And again, I'm not here to judge fully 100%, but it's just funny how one minute they go from I'm recovering from my eating disorder to the next, like, ooh, this is a good for a good amount of non-refined sugar, no artificial flavors, no colors. You know, it's like I know it's not what you're what you're completely meaning to do, but it's also really frustrating when a lot of you guys are also the really skinny, and you talk about your thin privilege, but it's just like a never-ending battle where it's like I hate sometimes agreeing with your trolls because it's like I know you're not in charge of my triggers, but it's really ridiculous. And you know how much people are going back and forth on like body shaming is never okay. No, it's not okay. Never okay to, but it's still there's a difference between when people skinny shame. You shouldn't shame at all, but when people are going around parading, posting their weight and posting this unachievable lifestyle, like that's what really bothers me, aside from all the Ozempic girlies. And I just wanted to say that if you're in my similar position and having a lot of these feelings, one, know that if you know that you're eating healthy and doing the right stuff for you, go for it. Don't listen to what the internet and the universe say. And I know people are gonna get on me for putting that way, but BMI, like I've said multiple times, is bullshit. And body neutrality is what we really gotta work on here. And you know, it's okay to have changing opinions of people. I think that that is very good to remind yourself to constantly do work and reflect. I'm saying that in the sense that people you might have thought were positive can be toxic, i.e., there is currently some stuff going around like a death hoax of certain influencers. I used to really enjoy Noah Glenn Carter, and I'm actually saying this because I don't know, he was posting some conspiracy theory thing recently, and then he posted like about how people were saying he was dead, and then he posted in comments, and it just became really weird. And now I'm like looking down the rabbit hole, but that shouldn't even be a joke. This is not me being too sensitive. There's just so much shit going on in the world right now that you can't joke about something like that. And yeah, also I think about the submarine versus the refugees. Like, you know, people are so like into the story about the submarine thing, whereas nobody's given a shit about the refugees. And it just is a never-ending cycle of what exactly is going on here? Where does my brain, like, how does my brain wrap everything around this? And this is why it's so hard to sleep, or why you get stressed. I get it. I get it that I probably have a phone addiction, you know, social media addiction, like how society has been saying. But, you know, in order to keep up with everything pop culture, etc., you kind of have to do things with it. Even my job that isn't social media, I have to be on my phone texting my boss, understanding the differences that is going on. And I think that we just don't really see that side as much as more time goes on. And I think that that's really more like where we have to take a step back and try to figure out what is best for me that is not selfish. And I started to do a lot of work with, again, the ADHD, and I'm seeing a lot of people, you know, figuring out that stuff. And I will say, I know I've been critical here and there of certain influencers. I will say that I'm hopeful that Elise Myers figures out her autism. Some odd reason that popped up on my For You page. I'm not saying that we should abolish everything that she said, or that we shouldn't, you know, hold accountability to certain people, etc. Like, obviously, even me, learning, doing work, whatever. But I do want to say that if she, like, find out that she has it, it's good to know that and try to understand. That's just my theory. Like, again, I was saying how early I got into a fight in the comments with someone that I probably shouldn't, in a keyboard war. And, you know, I just was mentioning why, like, maybe maybe your tone was off. And I'm saying, obviously, I know this and I have ADHD, so maybe I'm not the best at reading. But instead turns it around to saying that I'm saying something and that they're straightforward. And I had to block them and take screenshots, but that they were calling me the one that was rude and too sensitive, etc. I would never say that to anyone. I have been gaslit my entire life about being too sensitive. Actually, maybe I'm a little more sensitive, but in this case, I was also just making a comment, trying to make a joke off of something more playful. Like, it really didn't have to be that serious. but people decide that they know it all, and I try not to do that too much anymore, especially right now on the internet. Look, sometimes people aren't 100% correct, but also just trying to say that weaponizing sometimes your mental illness or your neurodivergence doesn't go over well. Have we not seen what Nessa Barrett does? Like, she blames everything on her BPD, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for what I'm saying right here, right now, but that's life, okay? Like, you're not gonna win at everything. And I think about just all the people that I've slowly had to unfollow of these influencers, etc. And I've said this, I've been talking about it, it's been a theme a lot of these podcasts recently, but I think there's just not one week that goes by without some sort of shit hitting the fan, and that's how it is. Again, Teachers Off Duty isn't really doing a lot to do. Gabe hasn't apologized. I'm still holding on to that. That is not me being too sensitive, and that is not me being whatever, and that's the vibe I was getting from those comments. And you know what? People like Get Burley, this amazing creator whose mom, who's not the autism mom, quote unquote, like, she actually never shows her kid in distress. She never exploits her kid. She does a lot for, you know, the community. She's just like a lot of the San Filippo parents, etc., or other disability advocate family members. There's so many that are actually good. They don't show their kids when they're in a bad situation. They don't overshare. They just share enough. And I know not everyone's gonna agree with me, but the fact of the matter is people are being really ridiculous to her right now, and so many other, that they're getting bullied off of the app, which life happens, but that's why TikTok sucks so much lately. And I don't even find myself caring anymore what people agree or disagree with, you know, the stance of it all. But it is being a little ableist, I believe, especially given the fact of the matter is that, you know, they report the comments of the people being ridiculous towards them, and then suddenly it's them that's getting forced off the app, and that's just not okay. So as we wrap up in lighter news, Smosh is back together, and this has been episode 59, and we will see you soon.